Hey folks, it's Dave. Welcome to the basement. So here it is, end of August. Seems like every year the summers seem to get shorter and shorter. Don't last nearly as long as I remember when I was a kid, but what are you gonna do? So yeah, gonna wrap up what I've found and added to the collection over the month of August. And we're gonna start with this one, which is, I picked it up totally coincidence. This band, there were only they only had two of their albums I needed to complete the collection, and then I came across this one, and then we got some kind of sad news during the month, and I'm talking about the Greg Kihn Band, and this is Glass House Rock, and unfortunately Greg passed away on the 13th of August due to complications from Alzheimer's, so kind of sad news there, but yeah, just so happened I happened to come across this one, and it was one of the two I needed, so here it is. And this came out in 1980 on Berserkly Records, as I'm pretty sure all of his releases were on Berserkly, and that kind of well-known black and yellow label there. And so yeah, for those who are not familiar, Greg was originally from Maryland and made his way out to the San Francisco area, and started up into the music biz and really broke out when he was out that way, and the rest is kind of history. So he's probably best well known for a couple of hit songs, Breakup Song and Jeopardy, but neither one of those are on this album. This is actually his fifth, and this one shows a little bit more of a harder edge than his earlier albums, or I should say harder rock edge than his earlier albums, which are a little bit more poppy, power pop. This is a little bit more rockin'. Songs you might want to check out, see what I'm talking about, is Things to Come, which is a great bluesy, boogie sort of rockin' song, killer bass on that one. The Only Dance There Is another bluesy rock song with a pretty killer riff. And he does a couple of covers on here. So he's got The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, which is a cover of a 1962 song from Gene Pitney. It's not bad, but I definitely prefer the original over that one. And then they round out the album with For Your Love, which of course is a Zombies cover. They recorded it live at a sound check, apparently, and it's it's just a fun tack-on song. It's pretty good. It sticks to the original. The original is much better, but still pretty decent. But yeah, this is definitely not the best Greg Kihn Band album, but I would not hesitate to recommend this to anyone who's interested in hearing what this band is all about. If you don't have any familiarity with them, this wouldn't be a bad one to start with if you come across it. So yeah, from 1980, this is Glass House Rock by the Greg Kihn Band. All right, this next one was a complete blind buy that I picked up solely on the basis of the cover, and I'll let you see if you can figure out what that was. And this is the self-titled debut album from a band called Curves. Came out in 1981 on Liberty Records. Had no idea what this band was about. Probably should have been forewarned by the band photo on the back there, but what this turns out to be, and the band was, a pop rock outfit from California. That their sound is squarely in that 70s rock sort of sound, 70s pop rock sort of sound. And what I mean by that is prominent bass, falsetto vocals, decent riffs, but they're safe. They definitely don't shred or anything like that. So yeah, it was kind of an interesting listen. Now there's a couple of tracks I still want to point out. Now the album starts with a song called Baby It's You, which just starts really, really horribly, and I thought this was just going to be a complete craptastic sort of album, but it ended up building up to a pretty catchy, sort of enjoyable song with a pretty decent keyboard riff, so that worked out. It salvaged itself. I Can't Stop Loving You is another song. It's actually a cover of a 1979 song by Smokey, which, not bad. They didn't do too much with it, so it was all right. And then Over the Line was a song written in part by Greg Guidry, and it has a nice doo-wop sort of root to it. And Greg would go on to release his own version of it in 1982. But let me be clear. This is 70s pop rock in all of its glory. So if that if that's a sound that makes you ill, just definitely pass on this one despite the cover. I think I'm going to hang on to this just because, you know, when the mood hits me, you know, it's not a terrible listen. It's not terribly played, or the guys definitely have talent. It's just not a sound that I'm often into. So this will be on the shelves. It'll come off every now and then, but definitely not very frequently. So yeah, this is the self-titled debut album by Curves. This next one was kind of a blind buy. I didn't know really much about this band. I think I remember somebody out there mentioning this in one of their videos over the last couple of months. Not this particular album, but the band. And I'm talking about The Lucy Show. And the band, or the album Undone, came out in 1985 on A&M Records, and this is their debut album. And so Lucy Show was a English post-punk band, actually founded by a couple of Canadians, who I guess were often compared to The Cure or Joy Division. And I definitely can hear that comparison is warranted, but I think the Lucy Show has a harder edge to their sound than those bands had. And by what I mean by that is, like, for example, Ephemeral, the first track on side A, lead-off track on the album, has it's a nice atmospheric song. It's got some slightly jangly guitars. There is a touch of a dark mood, but where I think those comparisons come in best, at least on this album, is my favorite track off the album, which is Come Back to the Living, third song, side A. This one has a really dark mood that definitely deserves those Joy Division comparisons. So I really enjoyed that particular song. So yeah, there's a moodiness for sure with this band's sound, at least on this album. But there's also a spark of kind of a hungry energy that I don't often associate with either The Cure or the Joy Division or the bands of that ilk. So I really enjoyed this album, and so to whoever mentioned it, sorry I don't remember who it was, but thank you. I'm glad that neuron fired when I saw this and was able to pick it up. So yeah, this is Undone by The Lucy Show. Okie doke. So this next one I think is probably the pick of the bunch for me anyway, at least of this update. And this is the debut album by Kat Von D called Love Made Me Do It. Came out in 2021 on Cartel Music. And so for those who aren't familiar with Kat, she was is a tattooist and model, originally from Mexico, I believe. But she really got her, let's see, how's that going to work? Let's do it that way. So she got her break on the reality TV show LA Inc., which I will admit, my wife and I watched that way back in the day. But I had no idea that she was dabbling in music until I came across this album. And in the cover itself, which, you know, I really dig that cover, the whole aesthetic, the whole thing going on there. So I thought, well, all right, fine, I'll give it a try. And boy, was I pleased with this. And this comes on this gold sort of, I don't know if you can really tell in there, it's kind of a swirl, marbly sort of vinyl. But anyway, so what Kat's doing here is some Darkwave synth pop, similar to like maybe Gunship or Birthday Massacre. And, you know, so musically, that's where it's coming from. Vocally, she's surprisingly a very good singer. Her vocals are quite strong and enjoyable. And I only say surprisingly because I'd never heard anything related to her singing in the reality show or in anything since then. So it was kind of a nice surprise. If you want to hear what I'm talking about, check out the song Enough, which is just a really, really good Darkwave song. I enjoyed that one very much. Lost at Sea is another one to check out. It's probably the most up-tempo on the album. I can't say that it's my favorite, but it's just kind of a different change of pace, whereas most of the album is moody. It's Darkwave. It's not, you know, it's not headbanging or anything like that. Now, a song that I was really interested in hearing when I saw on the back here was track 4, Protected, featuring Peter Murphy. And it turns out he not only He's featured, but he also co-wrote the song. So maybe I had a little bit higher than warranted expectations. It's good. It's sort of a mellow song, but again, I guess I just expected more. It's not bad at all, but it's just, I don't know. It stood out just because Peter was involved, but it didn't stand out as being one of the best tracks on the album, if that makes any sense. So, yeah, I'm very, very happy to have picked this one up. It's very enjoyable. This one is, I know I'm going to be pulling this off the shelves somewhat frequently. So, yeah, this is Love Made Me Do It, the debut album from Kat Von D. All right, and this last one was also a blind buy, and I picked this one up just because the band name sounds kind of cool. And I'm talking about the self-titled debut album from Glass Moon. Came out in 1980 on Radio Records. So yeah, this was kind of interesting. So now Glass Moon were a proggish rock band out of North Carolina. Their sound is keyboard, organ heavy, but not dripping with that pretension that you normally get with prog rock. This is the kind of prog rock I can stomach, kind of like bands like Kansas. Although I guess arguments can be made that they engage in a little bit of wankery themselves, but this was pretty good. This was very, very low key prog, I guess, but enough to let you know that that's what they're going for. Check out a song called "Follow Me," third song on side A. This was really, really a standout for me. Great vocals, really heavy on the guitar, more so than the other tracks on the album. Just a really good sort of prog rock light sort of song. Now they do also do a cover of Peter Gabriel's Salisbury Hill. Now I'm not a Peter Gabriel fan whatsoever. But so there may be some bias when I say this, but I definitely dig this band's cover of that song over the original. Like I say, it could just be my own bias against Peter Gabriel, but I don't know. I just thought this was a much better, much more interesting version of that song. So, yeah, I would recommend this if you're not really into prog, but you're interested in maybe dipping your toe into prog. Start with bands like this one. This is the self-titled debut from Glass Moon. All right, well, that will wrap it up for the additions to the vinyl collection for August of 2024. And I didn't realize this until I started making this video, but there were no Michigan bands in that group. I'm going to have to work on that. I'm going to pay more attention to what I'm doing. But so yeah, well, thanks for watching. Oh, one more thing before I go. This is going to be the last video before my wife and I go on vacation. But when I get back, there is, I've heard of a new record store that opened up in Grand Rapids. So if anybody who is in Michigan or Michigan adjacent, this is going to be exciting news. Well, you know, to me, it's exciting news. Not only is it a new record store, but it is owned by a guy with some ties to heavy metal aristocracy. So more on that, because when we get back, I plan to drive out there and see if I can shoot some footage in the store. Maybe talk to the owner if he's around. And but yeah, I'm really excited to check it out and share it with you. So looking forward to that. And again, thank you all for sticking to the end and watching, and let me know if any thoughts or comments you have on those albums that I showed. And again, yeah, appreciate you sticking with me, and I will talk to you soon.